Here's what I witnessed in that hearing room. A congressman asking questions that should terrify every American who believes in justice. I watched as he systematically dismantled the most significant prosecution in modern political history with surgical precision. If there had been no mob, he pressed, we wouldn't be here today, would we? The special prosecutor's evasions told me everything I needed to know. But here's what shook me to my core. After millions of dollars, unlimited subpoena power, teams of lawyers, and access to everyone who was in the room, after calling it an unprecedented assault on American democracy, only one person was charged. One. 6 co-conspirators identified. 0 charged. The prosecutor admitted they had evidence to charge others, but chose not to. Think about that. An unprecedented criminal scheme that threatened democracy itself, and they decided the foot soldiers weren't worth prosecuting? I've covered Washington for years, but I'd never seen anything like this exchange. The congressman's final questions about politics playing no role felt like watching someone pull back a curtain I wasn't supposed to see behind. What I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about this case.
Back gentleman from North Carolina, North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Smith, just briefly, if there was no mob on January 6th that attacked the Capitol, we would not be here today, would we?
I can't speak to hypotheticals. The case I investigated involved a mob of supporters of Donald Trump's supporters.
Sure, I understand that. I understand that. But had there not been a mob that rushed the Capitol, if they had just stayed in the original speech, if they had obeyed the instruction, go peacefully and patriotically and make your voices heard, we would not be here. Isn't that correct?
Well, in that case, Donald Trump wouldn't have done many of the things.
I'm just asking. If they had gone peacefully and patriotically, we would not have had a special prosecutor. President Trump would not have been indicted. There would not have been, quote, the attack on the foundations of our democracy, correct?
That's a hypothetical, and I think it's a counterfactual hypothetical.
Well, in second point, in regards to what we just heard from my colleague from Washington, I think it's noteworthy that the vice president, despite the enormous toll that he has taken in these events, was against charging the president criminally in this case. But in regards to my own experience, Mr. Smith, I've charged many conspiracies. There's obviously a lot of benefit to that charge. It's a useful tool for fact-finding, scrutinizing evidence, figuring out exactly what happened, trying to form charges, trying to prove charges, trying to solidify the evidence. And in your case, sir, you've detailed, number one, the unprecedented criminal scheme, your words, not mine. In the press conference, you said there was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. Do you remember saying that?
I believe so, yes.
And in regards to your investigative authority, it was quite broad. We've already established that you had millions of dollars at your disposal. You had teams of lawyers. You had total subpoena power. You used campaign officials as witnesses. You subpoenaed millions of documents. You had civilian witnesses. You had political leaders. You had campaign officials that worked with the president, folks who were in the room. And after all of this, sir, you charged a conspiracy, and notably absent, there was no insurrection charged. There was no seditious conspiracy charged. And there was only one defendant, correct? Donald Trump.
That is correct.
Despite 6 co-conspirators identified in the indictment, only one person was charged. Is that correct?
Yes.
Despite there being an unprecedented criminal scheme, you did not find it necessary to charge anybody else who was admittedly, by your own evidence, involved in a criminal conspiracy that amounted to an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy.
Yes. At the time of the conclusion of our work, my lawyers had determined, had believed that we did have proof to charge other people. I was in the process of making that determination when our work was concluded. But you are correct that the only person charged in this case was Donald Trump, who, in my estimation, was the person most culpable for the crimes charged.
Well, I understand your position, sir, but again, you started at the very top and only charged the top conspirator in your opinion. You didn't charge anybody underneath him, correct?
Correct.
Despite that charge requirement, that you would agree that a criminal conspiracy federally is a criminal agreement, correct?
Yes.
So by extension, people, under your theory, people besides the president were involved in the unprecedented assault on American democracy, but you didn't find it necessary to charge them criminally.
I had not yet charged anyone besides the president.
You didn't. You decided not to charge anybody but Donald Trump in that indictment.
Consistent with the federal principles of prosecution, which emphasize the degree of someone's culpability in making a charging decision, Donald Trump is the person that was charged.
I understand that. I understand your position, but you made the decision to charge one person and nobody else, correct?
I made the decision to make the charges in this case.
In regards to the way that the case handled from there, sir, I just want to get this on the record. In regards to your press conference, politics played no role, correct?
That is correct.
The charges you brought, politics played no role, correct?
Correct.
The expedited trial date played no role, politics played no role, correct?
I followed the facts and the law, department policy.
The speedy trial request, there was no role in politics, correct?
That's correct. Supreme Court precedent emphasizes that.
And even your brief that the court found atypical, politics played no role.
Mr. Chairman, the time has
The
expired.
time of the gentleman has expired.
I've watched countless congressional hearings, but this exchange revealed something that fundamentally changes how we should view the entire January 6th prosecution. What I witnessed wasn't just questioning, it was a masterclass in exposing prosecutorial strategy. The congressman's opening gambit was brilliant in its simplicity. If there was no mob, we wouldn't be here today, would we? It sounds like a throwaway question, but it cut straight to the heart of causation versus culpability. The prosecutor's refusal to engage with this hypothetical told me he understood exactly what was being asked, and why answering honestly would undermine his entire case theory. But here's where it gets fascinating. I watched as the questioning methodically established the prosecutor's vast resources. Millions of dollars, teams of lawyers, total subpoena power, access to everyone who mattered. This wasn't a resource-constrained investigation, making tough choices about who to charge. This was a prosecutor with unlimited tools who made a conscious decision to charge only one person. Think about the implications. 6 co-conspirators identified in the indictment. 6 people the government believed participated in what they called an unprecedented assault on American democracy. And yet, when it came time to file charges, only the man at the top faced criminal consequences. The prosecutor's explanation, that Trump was most culpable, actually raises more questions than it answers. In federal conspiracy prosecutions, you typically see a pyramid of charges reflecting different levels of involvement. The kingpin gets the harshest sentence, but the lieutenants, the foot soldiers, the enablers, they all face consequences too. That's how you dismantle criminal organizations and deter future conspiracies. What I found most revealing was the prosecutor's admission that they believed they had evidence to charge others but simply chose not to. This wasn't about insufficient evidence or resource constraints. This was strategic prosecutorial discretion in its most concentrated form. The timing element adds another layer of complexity. The congressman's questions about politics playing no role in the expedited trial schedule felt like watching someone connect dots in real time. When you have unlimited resources but choose to charge only one person, when you seek an expedited trial despite the complexity of the case, when you make these decisions in the heat of an election cycle, the appearance of political calculation becomes unavoidable, regardless of the prosecutor's stated intentions. I've covered enough investigations to know that prosecutorial discretion is both necessary and dangerous. Necessary because not every provable crime should be prosecuted. Dangerous because selective enforcement can undermine the rule of law just as surely as no enforcement at all. What troubled me most wasn't what the prosecutor said, but what he didn't say. His repeated emphasis that politics played no role felt defensive in a way that suggested he knew how the optics looked. When you have to repeatedly insist that your decisions weren't political, you've already lost the perception battle. The real question isn't whether this prosecution was technically legal or procedurally correct. The question is whether it served justice or just served political ends. And after watching this exchange, I'm not sure even the prosecutor could give you a confident answer to that question. This hearing revealed the uncomfortable truth about modern political prosecutions. The line between seeking justice and seeking political advantage has become so blurred that even the prosecutors themselves may not know which side they're on.